What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, since I've started reviewing these Marvel shows as they're coming out, it kind of makes sense for me to also start reviewing the movies that they'll be connected to, which is a little weird for me because I'm not used to doing like movie reviews because it's not my thing. I'm used to just doing TV shows. It's very simple, very quick episode reviews. Like, don't have a whole lot to talk about story stuff, anything that was weird or anything that was awesome. So yeah, I'll do my best. Hopefully, this doesn't come out awful, and we'll see. But yeah, so Black Widow, um, went and saw it on opening day, and yeah, it was good. I mean, obviously, there's kind of the nice feeling of being back in a theater to watch it. That was just there's something special about that. So getting to see it on the big screen, I think, really helped to sort of paint a positive light or an extra positive light on this film for me. But even without that, I still think this was a good movie. Probably there's been a lot of Marvel movies. I haven't actually like ranked them in my head. I would put this in the upper echelon though. It's not one of the bottom. It's not anywhere near like Thor, The Dark World, or Iron Man 2. It's not near those at all. I would probably put it somewhere middle of the pack. Still really good, still enjoyable, still a lot of fun, but not necessarily one of my favorites. You know, there are other movies I'd probably watch again before this one. But overall, still had a lot of fun, still really enjoyed myself, and not just for being at the theater. Like, I had a romp watching this. So that's kind of my quick spoiler-free review. To talk about some of my likes and dislikes, I will have to address spoilers, so I'll go ahead and just say that this is your spoiler warning. I should have a piece of paper saying spoiler and just hold it up for those of you that maybe for some reason are not listening but you're reading my lips. That doesn't make any sense. Never mind. This is your spoiler warning. That was enough time for you to click off the video if you don't want spoilers. So first of all, the one issue I have with this, and it's not enough to ruin the film, it's not enough to like take it down a bunch of notches, but it is a pretty big flaw with this. Too many moments of people not dying when they should have definitely died. um, yeah, I mean, it's a superhero film, so I get it. Sometimes, like, people go through pain and they don't die because, oh, you gotta suspend your disbelief a little bit. This is Marvel. But all of these people, except for, like, Alexei, are just normal human beings with extra heightened, like, reflexes and fighting capabilities, but they're not superhuman. But this movie made me believe that they were superhuman. Because, oh my gosh, so many moments. I mean, Natasha should be dead 3 or 4 times throughout the film. Actually, probably more. But you've got she's driving a car and the car blows up and flips several times. She's fine. She gets kicked off the bridge, and not just like she gets kicked off and falls in the water. She gets kicked. She's holding the shield. Taskmaster kicks the shield, which knocks her into the car and like sends her spinning. Like, that looked like it should have broke her back as hard as she hit the car. And then she goes falling into the water like 30 feet below, which is going to do some damage. She lives. There's another point. She and her sister are driving the car, and then the car like flips several times. They live. They were both on the back of a bike, and they like go falling off the side of like it was an upper road, falls onto a lower road, and so they're like driving this bike, and they hit the wall. It's pretty hard force and go flipping, land on top of a car down below, completely fine. And then, like I said, car flips later. Whenever they were escaping from the widows at the safe house in Budapest, I mean, they're jumping off the top of this building. They push like this pipe over, and Yelena goes crashing through the window, which, okay, she might survive that, but then Natasha hits several things on the way down and lands on the ground on her feet, completely fine. And not only that, but the widow that was chasing them, they knock her off the pipe. She goes falling. Actually, Natasha tries to save her, but doesn't. She falls into a puddle, and she's still alive. And then, I mean, Dreykov has her kill herself after that. But how does she survive that fall? She landed square on her back. She should be dead. And I mean, sure, she was severely injured, and she was probably going to die in a little bit, but I feel like that's one of those instant impacts. There's blood everywhere. She should be just dead. She's fine. And then, On top of that, we come to find out that Dreykov survived Natasha blowing up a building with his daughter inside. His daughter survived, although with severe burns, which, okay, if she survived with severe burns, why isn't he severely burned? He's completely fine, no scratches, no scars, no nothing from an exploding building, but his daughter is the one that was severely scarred and burned. Okay. And then he hops on this helicopter to get out of there, and then Yelena jumps on top of it, slams her rod staff, whatever, into the engine, which causes it to explode up into her face, which knocks her off the building. She's still alive, with no burns or anything on her. They're Melina and Alexei are flying a helicopter off the base, and then the tail gets taken out because Alexei throws the shield and hits a guy, knocks him into the fin of the helicopter plane they're flying, and it just starts spiraling out of control. And then the next time we see them, they're on the ground walking towards Natasha and Yelena after all of that is said and done. All of this falling debris, and none of it hits any of our main characters. I mean, it was a lot. I can suspend my disbelief a little bit. But when you have so many instances where I'm just sitting there going, how are they still alive? How are they not dead? This is not physically possible. It's a little stretching it. You know, you would have to throw in some superpowered beings or some explanation for why none of this is killing them, because they should be dead several times over. So yeah, that was definitely my biggest complaint, and I mean, it's a legitimate issue. It's not just something where I'm like, oh, I'm just nitpicking. No, like, this is probably going to be something that a lot of people are going to talk about. There's a lot of moments of that. There's a lot of moments of cheating death. They should be dead, but they're not. It was pretty blatant, obvious how bad that was. But anyways, that's my one big negative. Couple of nitpicks that I have. For one, the action, while for the most part good, there were times it was a little close quarters. Which meant it was kind of shaky cam. I'm not a big person for shaky cam. I liked it in some movies, like the Bourne movies. I thought it was fine, but for Black Widow, I kind of was hoping it wouldn't have that shaky cam because her fight scenes are pretty awesome in the other movies that she's in. So I was hoping to see a lot more of her actual like fighting. The slow motion parts were worked in pretty well. Pretty sparingly too. Sometimes movies, when they want to go slow motion, they want to do it a lot. This movie, it felt like they kept it to kind of the minimum, and I feel like in the moments where they used it, it was to kind of emphasize a point, to emphasize how good somebody was at fighting, and to kind of show what was happening more clearly. So yeah, I thought all of the action was fine. Just a couple parts did get a little too shaky for me, and not really something that I wanted to see going into this movie, but something that I could accept. You know, it was fine. And then the other thing was that, I don't know, it was a little bare bones as far as the story was concerned. You know, it was pretty simple and straightforward. I was expecting a little bit more of what we got near the end, where when they're infiltrating the base, you know, Melina and Natasha switch places using the face mask thing. I was expecting a lot more of that, a lot more of like covert, you know, Civil War. If you think about that, there was a lot of stuff going on, and weren't really sure who to trust, weren't really sure what was going on that we could believe was happening, and what stuff was actually happening behind the scenes that we weren't aware of. I was expecting a bit more of that because, I mean, Black Widow is a super spy. That opening scene that we see with her, where General Ross is tracking her down, and then she evades his capture. You know, she's watching this thing. They think they found her, and then that's not where she is. She got rid of her tracker. It kind of set me up thinking like, okay, yeah, we're gonna see a lot of her doing cool spy stuff, but in the end, it just sort of ended up being kind of just an action flick and pretty generic at that. Basically, I mean, it was just Dreykov survived, and he's creating a new Red Room, and he's creating more Black Widows, and instead of using psychological training to keep them under his control, he's now using an actual chemical bioweapon to keep them under his control. That's kind of just it. And then you find out his daughter's the one that's Taskmaster, which I was hoping to get a bit more about Taskmaster, because from the previews that I saw, that looked pretty cool. Whoever it was, I didn't know who it was at the time, but whoever it was, I was like, that's cool. Why are they hiding their face? It's gonna be some cool reveal. The being the daughter, that's okay. It's not anything super crazy. Like I was kind of thinking it was gonna be somebody in this story. I didn't think they were gonna bring in like somebody else from another movie that we've seen before. So the daughter was kind of, it was not my top suspicion, but it was up there, I guess. I think one of my top suspicions was like a clone of somebody we knew or something like that. I don't know. My brain sometimes goes really far out there with some of these stories, but yeah, it was kind of, that was it. That was his whole story, was just him recreating the Red Room. We find out he's apparently been putting all of these widows all over the world, basically building his infrastructure so at the right moment he could step out of the shadows. And that's kind of it. And it's just about, first it starts with Natasha being attacked by Taskmaster, finding out that, her sister's the one that gave her all this stuff, finding their fake dad, Alexei, and then finding their fake mom, Milena. And Milena's the one that knows where the Red Room is, and she's still kind of working for him. And I don't know, it's just, that's kind of it. They stop him in the end. Yeah, I don't know. It was just, that was my other kind of nitpick, was I was hoping for a bit more espionage, a bit more trickery, not sure who to trust. And in the end, it was just kind of straightforward. That's kind of it. Nothing too strange or plot twisty. Nothing too crazy, though, which is also a good thing. Sometimes some movies like to take plot twisting to the extreme and make it really dumb. So that was at least a bonus for that. But yeah, I don't know. It was pretty straightforward, which I guess for some people could be a good thing. For me, I was hoping for a bit more. But again, that's why it's a nitpick and it's not actually a true criticism of the film. But yeah, everything else was really well done. Character-wise, I feel like all these characters were really well written. They were well acted. The dialogue between most of them was well done. It was enjoyable. It was fun. It was funny. I think of all the people that were cast and all of the acting involved, I think the highlight for me was probably, I would say the dad was probably my favorite, just because he had such a, I don't know, when we started the film, he seemed like he was going to be maybe kind of a controlling father figure a little bit. But then once we see him in the prison and we see him as the Red Guardian, he just became so much fun and such a joyous character. Anytime he was doing something, there was always something funny going on. It was always something that kept me engaged and laughing. So I thought they wrote him very well and made him a fun character to witness. And then Dreykov was probably the weakest. It wasn't that he was bad. It just, out of all of them, it felt like he was the one that was pretty one-dimensional. He's just evil and he wants control, and that's kind of it for him. He doesn't have much depth beyond that, beyond being just an evil dude, which is not necessarily a bad thing for a villain, but based on how some villains are nowadays, a lot of them have a bit more depth. They have a bit more character, something that makes them memorable. The one thing that makes this guy memorable for me is he's kind of a creep. Honestly, like, it felt like he was very intent on, I'm going to get as close to these women as I possibly can. I'm going to be up in their face and I'm going to be really close. I'm going to whisper behind their ear. And just like, that's what I'm taking away from your performance right now, is that you're kind of a pervert. So I don't know if that was intentional or if that was director or actor decision. But it did make it memorable. It was the one thing that stood out to me about his character, because the rest of it was just pretty standard villain stuff. Wanting control, wanting to take over the world. So that's about it. I'm trying to think what else. There's one other thing that really stood out to me that I really enjoyed about this film. Oh, right. So one of the things I was concerned about going into this was the fact that it was going to be a prequel. I wasn't really sure how to feel about that. There was this fear that it was going to turn into, okay, well, it's just a side story. It's not going to mean a whole lot. It's not going to really play into much. And honestly, for Natasha's character, I really feel like it didn't do much to change her. Like, she did get that kind of vindication in the end because she got to stop the bad guy while still helping his daughter, because previously when she made that decision, she made the decision to, who cares about the daughter? and to sacrifice her to be able to kill Dreykov. So she got a chance to kind of have that redemption arc, which it's one that we didn't know about. So I will say that was a little, it was kind of out of left field. It's like, oh, she chose to kill a little girl. Damn, like that's it's kind of harsh, but it is in the past now. Like we know you're not that character anymore. So that there is kind of that. It's a redemption arc for a character that's already kind of redeemed herself a little bit. But it still was nice to have that moment in the end where she could have let the daughter just stay, and she knew that the daughter was going to attack her if she let her out of that prison cell, but she wanted to save her life and she wanted to break her free of her father's control. So it was a nice moment for that. It was basically, even though she's already redeemed herself as a character, she's redeemed herself as a person. She's not that assassin, that monster anymore that's willing to kill a little girl to kill Dreykov. She's not that person, but now she has a chance to make up for some of the sins of her past. She has the chance to make it up to the girl that she hurt before and say, hey, now I'm going to save your life. So it was a nice moment for her there. But anyways, as far as Natasha is concerned, that was not really the thing that I took away from this. The character that I really took away from this, really seeing kind of what they're doing next, is Yelena, which Florence Pugh had already been confirmed to be on Hawkeye. So people already knew for a while that she was going to be coming back. And knowing that she's Natasha's sister, it was kind of interesting what's going to happen with her. I really like the camaraderie that they built up between her, because what it's going to do for Yelena from here on out is basically show that they were really close. She didn't really get a chance to see her before she left and started working with this Valentina woman. So now it's going to be kind of interesting to see Yelena go through this pain of, I wasn't there for her, I wasn't there to help her, now she's dead. And now Valentina's basically blaming Hawkeye for it, which, I mean, does flow very well into the Hawkeye show. But I like that character development. I like what they did with her, and honestly, I mean, her character overall and her acting was just, it was really well done. And it's something that if she's going to sort of step into this, not necessarily take over for Natasha, it doesn't look like, but she is sort of stepping in to be that type of character, it looks like. I don't know if she's actually going to be working for the bad guys for the rest of the time that she's involved, or if she's going to come around and be on the side of the good guys, because I'm pretty sure Valentina's not a good guy. She seems like she's a bad guy. Just based on some of what I've seen about her character, the fact that she becomes Madam Hydra in the comics, probably a bad guy. So, I don't know. I'll definitely. It's got me intrigued to see what they're gonna do with her character from here on out. I don't know if the parents of Alexei and Milena are gonna come back at all. You know, we didn't even see him in the post-credit scene. We didn't see him after they left with Yelena at the end of it with the other widows. So I don't know what's going to happen there, if they're going to come back in the Hawkeye show as well, or if they're just sort of going to be out of the picture for a little bit until we need them again. But like I said, Yelena's character and what they did, building that sisterly camaraderie with Natasha in this movie, even if it was a little bit rushed at times, I feel like it really built up their bond. So now going forward into the films and into the TV shows that she's going to be a part of, I want to see what happens next. And to rope me in like that on one movie for this one character who wasn't even really the main character, but just has a tie with the main character, it really shows how well they've written her character and how well Florence Pugh brought the character to the screen, because now I want to see what happens next. I want to see what her character is going to do next. So, yeah, all in all, it was a lot of fun. It was enjoyable. Like I said, I fully recommend it. If you're a Marvel fan, obviously I recommend it. If you're not a Marvel fan, I still recommend it. I still think there are parts of this, that are fun, and you'll have a laugh. You'll get to be in the cinemas again. Go support the cinemas, because I don't want to lose the big screen. And for a little bit there, it seemed like that was going to happen. So, but anyways, all in all, that's all I have to say about this. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on the movie? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Marvel reviews, and I'll see you guys at the next Loki episode. Peace out.